Good evening. We are live. We are back. We were all here last week. We've managed to bring back Sean. What more could you possibly want? Well, we're going to talk all about the quarterfinals just after this. Hello and welcome back. Well, we've got 4 absolutely humdingers of matches to get ourselves through, with very different talking points in every single one, but one recurring talking point that just seems to pop up again and again and again in these knockout stages. We are, of course, going to be talking about what Connor has described as the England scam. But as Anton says, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. So we shall see when we get to that one, which won't take long at all. But we are going to just take a brief moment and just return back to the glory days of the group stages, because we did desperately want to get Sean's opinion last week on everything that had happened in the group stages, with it being such a momentous occasion. And obviously Liberty had her opportunity to talk a little bit about Poland and how they got on their maiden voyage. And of course, Sean was lucky enough to actually get out there and see history as it happened, including the likes of Jess Bishlock scoring the first ever goal for Wales and becoming the oldest goal scorer in the tournament, which I'm not sure is really a trophy that anybody genuinely wants. But I think she'll take it. She's written in the history book. Sean, just give us a little bit about what it was like to be in and around the Wales camp on what was, I think, really a very, very good week for you.
Yeah, Jess Fisher was also very quick to point out she's the youngest Welsh person to score at a major tournament, and that's the route we'll go down. I'd also like to apologise for the late start. That's my fault. I thought it was 8:30, and when Barry texted me, "Are you okay?" at 8 o'clock, I thought, what a thoughtful guy looking out for me. Realised, no, I'm in the wrong. It's an 8 o'clock start, so sorry about that. I still don't really know how to sum it up. Because I think there's definitely the performance-wise of what Wales have done and the off the pitch what Wales have done. On the pitch, and look, we are the lowest seeds in the group. We are the lowest seeds in the whole tournament. We've never beaten a team in the top 20 of the FIFA rankings. Everyone expected us to finish bottom, but I still come away from it disappointed with how we performed. I think the France game felt like the only game where Wales turned up, and I was playing a formation we've never played before, real round pegs and square holes kind of vibes from Rhian Wilkerson, which again we've not really seen before. And I can understand playing against bigger nations, you want to maybe catch them out, try something different, which he did. But I just felt like the whole stage, the whole hype, maybe got to some of our players, which is natural. So yeah, I was disappointed with how we. I hope she doesn't. I'll be quite honest with you. I really hope she doesn't. Um, but just I'll remember that tournament for everything off the pitch. To see that much red in across Switzerland, it wasn't just in those cities. The conversations with people, family coming out, children being able to take out school on the Friday before that first game against the Dutch, coming with parents, just so we want them to witness history. We want them to see this special moment. And in the bars after it, in very, very pricey, really overpriced bars of Switzerland, just singing, dancing, like the Swiss public even just wanting to learn about our culture, wanting to sing the songs, doing the fan walks. That fan walk with the Dutch will stick with me forever. I think they were the perfect dance partner to our first dance in a major tournament, and it was such a beautiful atmosphere. And yeah, it'll be those stories that I'll remember more than the actual performance. Or we expected to finish bottom. We weren't expected to win, but the Anna Powell said in the press conference it wasn't a very Welsh performance against the Dutch, and it wasn't a very Welsh performance against England. France felt like the only time where I thought, okay, this looks like a semblance of a team I've watched over the past couple of years. So it's definitely on off the pitch, but overall, it was just, yeah, time I'll never forget, to be honest. I'll never, ever forget.
Which is brilliant. And you know what? I really enjoyed watching Wales. And, I very much had a soft spot. I was hoping that they did incredibly well. And I think they did. For a first tournament, they've not done too badly at all. And just to let you know, Sean, that you had correctly identified 6 out of 8 teams that made it into the quarterfinals. It was very good. None of us were as good as Liberty. She got 7 and was incredibly joyous about that moment as well. The 2 teams that let you down, of course, Iceland, which just let us all down, which is a genuine shame. And of course, Netherlands, because you just couldn't bring yourself to say England, if you remember that one. So you could have had 7-2.
I remember that one. I'm still banking. It'll go to pot somewhere. I'm still quite hopeful of that.
So there we go. Chair Criminal also saying Julie Bartel and Luna Ribadera can really do with a coach like Rhiannon Wilkinson. Maybe. And Sporty saying, I like to hope it inspires Wales to qualify for further tournaments and not allow it to be one and done. And obviously, as we said last week, really hope that's the case as well, because, as we said, it was only 20 odd years ago that they were just withdrawing them from qualifications and say, giving the money to the chaps. So there we go. But lovely. Glad you had a good time, Sean, and even happier that you're back so that we can chat more about the Euros. And that's what we're going to do. And we're going to kick off with, I suppose, really the tamer of the 4 quarterfinals when you start looking at what happened in the other 3. But still, I thought, quite an entertaining one for the most part. I speak, of course, of Norway against Italy, and a very, very interesting game it was too. Cristiano Girelli scoring in the second half after what was a stalemate of a first half. Ada Hegerberg, of course, equalising. And just when we're all thinking, we're going to have our first extra time of the Euros, Cristiano Girelli says no and scores again. And a cheeky little 2-1 win for Italy. And the Azzurri are through to the semi-finals with Norway. I mean, I don't know, Liberty. It's kind of another Norway performance, really, wasn't it? Just one of those where they just decided not to show up. I don't know. We shall see. I wonder if you're laughing at this.
But I can't. Right. So yes, technically, but also they didn't call up a single one of our Norwegian players, so I can't be too disgruntled because I can't say that any of the players I like were there. So yes, but also no, because maybe that's what her downfall was.
Fair enough. But tell us, Norway, Italy, I mean, the right team went through in the end, didn't they? But again, Norway just not performing once they've hit the big rounds.
Yeah, I think it was more of the same from the group stages, which I think in the group stages is fair enough if you are expected to get through purely because of the other teams aren't expected to. I think that's like, oh, okay, nothing was truly overly inspiring, but you expect a team who have had a bad group stage to hit the sort of go from 90% to 100% and to sort of hit the mark when it's crunch time. And they still didn't. They were still just sort of limp and a bit like, nah. And I think that it started when the lineups came out and I was trying to guess who was where, because obviously they had Lund was suspended because she had received a red card in the Iceland game for 2 yellows, so she couldn't play. So then you're looking at, okay, who's going to go in the back line? The logical brain goes, okay, Ingrid Engen will go to centre back and Tuva Hansen will move to full back, and then Guru Reiten will be in the midfield. And she went, nah, not going to do that. Actually, I'm just going to put Guru Reiten at left back. And I've never, like, genuinely in my life, I literally went, what? Because I thought there was a mistake on the lineups when I was looking at them on my phone. I thought there was like actually a mistake, and I thought this is classic. Like, some of these apps never get them right, and then BBC was saying the same, and I thought this is gonna go one way for Norway, and it was not going to end in success. When you have a team that has already underperformed despite getting to knockouts, and then when they've got sort of a slightly depleted squad, not as much as some other teams that we'll end up talking about, but a depleted squad in some sense, do not take the logical steps, you deserve to be knocked out. Like, I'm not trying to be cruel, but if you're going to put a player that is such attacking brilliance as Guru Wrighton at left back, I don't understand how you think this is going to be like a success story, especially when we've seen Italy play really well this tournament. Maybe not get the results they would have wanted in the group stages, but still put on really good performances. You know that they're going to step up another gear because they want to get into their first semi-final in some couple decades. I can't remember the exact number, apologies. And then, yeah, it sort of just fell apart. Both the Italy goals, well deserved. I thought they were really good. The Norway equaliser after the missed penalty. So there was some chaos, and that was a dreadful penalty. I don't really know what's going on with Ada Hegerberg at the moment, but, you know, at least if she's going to miss a penalty, she will then score somehow. That's happened twice now this tournament, which is just mad. But yeah, it was just, I just think when you think of the talent that Norway have at their disposal in professional women's football, outside of the squad that was called up, I can't help but blame anyone but Granger for not calling up the right players once again. I think I think I said this in before the Euros even started on here. I said she's not called up the right players. These players are in form. They are playing really well. And she's calling up names over actually informed players. And it has cost her once again. And at this point, you have to look at her and think, is this the right person to take Norway to this next step? Because that's what she was deemed to be when she came in. And I still am not sure, because she is constantly calling up players that basically should not be in this setup right now, instead of players who are well informed and playing really well. But congratulations to Italy, because they was well deserved. And when the winner went in the 89th minute, I thought, yay, well done Italy. And then I thought, thank God I don't have to watch any more Norwegian football this tournament, because it was genuinely quite depressing.
It was a little bit of a worry. You were talking about it, obviously, Italy did very well. They reached the semi-finals and indeed the final in 1997. And Norway did it in 2013. So there we go. That was years for you there. Freya, how did it sort of come across to you? Because again, you see Italy take the lead and then you just think, oh, that's a stupid penalty to give away. And then Ada Hegerberg misses. I mean, Ada Hegerberg is one of the biggest names in women's football. And in this tournament, she's going to be the biggest name because she's the only player to miss two penalties in regulation time. She's taken both and she's missed them both. And yeah, it's a bit of a mentality monster, I suppose, to get up and try that in the first place. But like, that missed penalty really didn't help. She did exactly what she did after she missed the first penalty in the previous game, where she went on and scored. But you do kind of wonder if she'd have got it a little bit earlier, whether or not they might have sort of pulled back a little bit. Do you think it would have made any difference? There was only 6 minutes between the missed penalty and the goal. And either way, they still ended up losing at the end.
Yeah, I just think it was a strange one for Norway, because they keep consistently not turning up and playing to the standard that they should be. And we talked about it last time. You know, they've done enough so far. They've muddled their way through. But once it gets to the important bits of the competition, they just can't fire on all cylinders. And you were against an Italian team that you've got, you know, huge game players like Girelli, who are coming to the end of their international careers, still playing incredibly, but thinking about the future, and they've got a fight that I haven't seen before. And this Italian side, and I think I talked about last time, a lot of it was to do with Sonchin. A lot of the players have said, you know, he's come in and really made a difference. And I think I was I was reading an article about what Drelly said afterwards about she's seen a light in the eyes of the team that she hasn't seen before. And to know you're up against a team that are going to fight for everything, I think that goal was always coming for Italy. You just felt it, especially the way they were playing, the way they were moving the ball. And the fact that Cantore and Girelli linked up both times shows they've got something really, really special there. So yeah, Italy did deserve it. Norway could have done a lot more, but it's a tournament of rubbish penalties, isn't it? So it was quite nice. The one the other night actually went quite well for Germany. But yeah, I just think Norway's mindset, especially Arda Hegerberg's as well, to miss that initial penalty, to step up, like you mentioned, took guts to do it again, but then to miss it for a second time, you've then got to be thinking, did no one have a word and go, I know you want to redeem yourself, but just because of the way this tournament's going, can we just let Guro Reiten step up? Can we just let someone else have a go? So yeah, it was just a series of unfortunate events for that Norway team, I think. And unfortunately for them, Italy fought right till the end, and Girelli got a goal.
They did, and yeah, a very, very interesting thing. Lots to talk about the coach, Sean. You spoke a lot about the positives of Rhian Wilkinson for Wales. Gemma Granger is very much on the other end of this particular stick, isn't she? She's getting quite a lot of it. She's getting poked quite a bit, beaten quite a bit. Do you think it's as bad as some people are saying, refusing to drop the big names? Because, I mean, that is not the easiest thing to do. I mean, a bit like the penalty talk, we'll get to that with England, but loads of people seem to think it's really easy to just step up from 12 yards and smash a ball in the back of the net when you've got the entire weight of the world on your shoulders. But equally, it's a tricky thing. You've really got to be made of steel to drop big name players when they're the names that are being spoken out as being the very players that make Norway as dangerous as they are. So do you think she's sort of in a catch-22 position, or should she be stronger? What is the reason why Norway have Norwayed once again?
I've been very fortunate to watch some Gemma Granger football before the entire world has got to witness and Gemma Granger football when she managed Wales for 2 years. And that Norway whole display this tournament was very much like watching Wales in 2023. Not good. Even at Wales, she had her favourites, and we were very lucky. We were fortunate. We were lucky to see one substitute in a game. Like, you knew the starting 11 straight from the bat. You knew exactly where every player was going to play, and you knew if she was going to make one sub, you knew it was going to be Helen Ward coming on for a striker in the 85th minute, maybe. She's a very predictable coach, and I am still quite surprised the Norwegian FA paid multiple hundreds of thousands of pounds to the Welsh FA to take her away. And I know a manager will get a lot of stick, and rightfully so, but this Norway team, this Norway squad, it's cursed is too strong, but there's something wrong with them. There is a mental block. There is a psychological disadvantage that you go into every tournament. They just can't. That group of players should be playing exciting football, but they seem to be playing with the weight of the world on their shoulders. I think what they need is something like France have done. Maybe just a strong manager say, right, big name players, experience, it's time. I want to try and move on a little bit, inject some youth. So we'll get on to France and that game, but I've really enjoyed watching France with this new sort of freedom in that group stages in particular. And I think Norway could benefit with something similar, but I think it goes further than the manager. I just think, even from above, there needs to be a deep clean of whatever's been haunting this Norwegian team for years so they can rightfully take their place back at the top of the women's game because they are a phenomenal, phenomenal team. But I'm delighted for Italy. I have to say, fully deserved. Girelli just a proper striker, and I mean that in the best way possible because we get a lot of these fancy tiny touches of false nines or your inside forwards. No, proper striker. She knows where the back of the net is, and Cantore as well. I've been so impressed with her. I can't wait to see what she does with Washington when she gets over there. Caruso and Giuliano have been brilliant in the midfield. Olivero and Di Guglielmo and the wing backs have been really good. It's been a really exciting team to watch, and I really cannot wait to see what they do in the semi-finals.
No, absolutely. And of course, the good news for all four of us is that when we sat here on that very first day and previewed the entire thing, every single one of us said that Italy would make it to the quarterfinals, but only one of us said that Italy would make it to the final. So it'll be very interesting to see if that's where they end up. As to the semi-finals, I should have said before, we said that Italy would make it to the semi-finals, all four of us, but only one said Italy would make it to the finals. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes, especially when you consider the way the match is going to be played. But yeah, listen, I thought it was a really, really, really good game, but it just sort of signalled things to come, because obviously the next night we have the joys of Sweden against England, and there was lots of things that were built up around this. The fact that the goal scorer spelt out the name of ABBA was just a quirky coincidence that I have genuinely enjoyed and loved, because what are the chances of that? Fairly slim, you would have to think. But it happened. But that game, here he goes, Mr. Token Scotsman, Billy Connolly wannabe. Listen, the game was unbelievable. I sat there watching that. I should have been working, and I didn't. I was quite happily sat there. I did absolutely nothing for my football club. I'd done all my work beforehand, and they were all out trading. I'm like, I'm staying here watching that. That's the end of that. And you know what? I was angry in that game. Like, I was genuinely angry, because that wasn't an England performance. It was poor. It really was poor. We give away a first goal. We very nearly gave away a second goal in quick succession. Really poor defending. And you get a lot of people that have a go at Hannah Hampton. And I think she was actually fairly faultless for those two goals. It was the people in front of her that let her down. The second goal obviously gets scored, and you start thinking, what's going to happen here? How bad is this going to get? Weren't really making any changes. But of course, eventually they do. And England pull themselves back into it. And it took Chloe Kelly to come on. That little bit of wily sort of experience that she's got. I said a lot of people talk about the penalties. And obviously it kicked off all of the idiots over on Twitter that want to get themselves all upset. And you know, I can distinctly remember stepping up to take penalties when I was at my nephew's primary school, and one of the teachers in goal. And of course, you've got your nephew looking up at you like that. Go on, Uncle Barry, you can do it. And that's a level of pressure that I couldn't live with. And when I put that through and past the post, I felt pretty terrible. Now, it's not easy. It's not. You think it's going to be easy, but when you're trying to impress someone and you're trying to do something, you might just add that little bit extra power, or you might just hit it slightly wrong, or change your mind at the last minute. Pressure does really stupid things to you, and you end up making silly decisions. Was it a good shootout? Yes. It was bloody entertaining. Like, you couldn't have seen it. And of course, when Jennifer Falk steps up to take the fifth penalty and she missed it, what else can I say other than what the Jennifer Falk has just happened here? Because that was unbelievable. And like, every time I thought we were out, we got back in it again. It was mental in that respect. Were they good penalties? No, they were terrible. Absolutely. I don't think anybody is ever going to sit here and defend them. But penalty shootouts are all about that. That's why they're nail biting, because it's full of drama. I don't think you could argue that wasn't a dramatic end to the game, but it was pretty terrible overall for it. But England made it through. And two of us said that England would make the semi-finals. So two of us are correct. Freya, you were one of them that said that England would make it through. And congratulations to you. You got it the right way around. You fully predicted Italy against England being one of the semi-finals. So congratulations on there. Extra points for you. Tell us what you're thinking about this England game, because, as TJ says, very dramatic.
It was bizarre, and I'm glad I got this right. Made up for the group stages, but It was one of those ones where as soon as Aslani's goal went in what, like the second minute, and you just thought, oh, this isn't the way we go out, is it? Because everyone looking at England thinking, you know, can they do it again? Can they make it to the final? Can they win it? Lots of people saying, well, we haven't got, you know, our best players. Can we make it? It's a completely different team to 2022. Should that expectation still be there? And, you know, all of these doubts. And I think as English people, we're quite cynical anyway. We're like, no, it's not going to happen, is it? You keep the belief for, you know, your hopes and dreams, but on the most part, you just think you're waiting for something to drop, you're waiting for something to go wrong. And as soon as that first goal went in, you went, oh, well, it's been a nice ride, hasn't it? We got this far. It's been good. But this is where it ends. And then Blackstenius's goal went in, and you just think, this isn't England. Exactly what you said. Like, what are they playing at? They look like a team that have never played together before. The defense was all over the place. And just nothing was clicking. Nothing could go through midfield. Kira Walsh was non-existent. And you just thought, you know, Georgia Stanway had a bit of space down that left-hand side. Hempo hit the crossbar. But apart from that, you were thinking, is this it? Is this all they've got to give when they should be coming out fighting? They should be wanting to show it, you know, even if it's not going their way, just, you know, show it and fight for it. And then second half, and you're thinking, right, well, Serena's not going to make any subs, is she? And then it gets longer and longer, and you're like, oh my God, like nothing is happening. We need some change. And the first ones, I'm just looking, just to get it right. But yeah, so we had it was Beth Mead, wasn't it? Beth Mead, Esme Morgan, and Michelle Adjaman came on. We were like, right, okay, fresh legs. We know what Michelle Adjaman can do. And it was getting closer, wasn't it? And you just thought, right, something's going to happen. And then when Chloe Kelly came on, it just seemed to click. And I don't know if we mentioned it last time, but we said the subs that come on, because they know how important that role is. They've got that fight and they've got that hunger. Whereas the people in the starting 11 sometimes can seem a bit more complacent, like they're expecting to be in there. And sometimes that passion isn't there. So when Chloe Kelly was starting to bring everything together and make it happen, then the goal came in and you thought, we're back in the game now. So yeah, I think England, unfortunately doing England things of going, oh, I've got 10 minutes left. Should we have a go? Should we try? But yeah, I'm glad they did it. You know, I really, really am. But that should be from the get-go. That should be from the first whistle. And I don't know why we keep falling into the trap of, we'll try for the last 10 minutes. But yeah, just shaking our heads, shouting at the telly all the way through. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know what happened in that first half.
It was honestly just one of those bizarre matches I've ever seen. Sean, I'm going to throw this over to you from Connor's comment. He says, Sweden deserve more credit than they get, and the game plan was spot on, and that midfield was just all over the pitch. Excellent. Just didn't kill the game off when they had the chance. Now, is he right, first of all? Are we, because we are potentially England biased, sitting there and just talking more about the failings of England rather than in conversation, Liberty? I don't necessarily mean we're all massive fans of the England team. In conversation, England biased. Is it that we're more talking about the failings of England rather than the positivity of Sweden? But equally, if we were to have that conversation, do we not also need to talk a little bit about the Swedish decisions that were made, insofar as probably not the greatest time to take off some of your potential penalty takers just because you think the game is done? Maybe keep them on for a little bit longer, because you saw as soon as it was 2-2, you looked at the bench and the players were genuinely sitting there like, oh, this could go a bit wrong. And the fact they then held on for like another 38 minutes as well as having a go themselves was quite impressive. So what do you reckon?
Do you want the truth? The truth is, I don't want to talk about this game. In all honesty, I'm quite all right skipping over this. Connor will understand. Connor will understand exactly where I'm coming from, because he detests England as much as I do. Connor, I've come to the conclusion, and I'm at peace with England winning this tournament. I'm at peace with it. It's fine. I've seen them win it before. It's not going to be as bad. And the morning after the final, I cannot wait for it. I cannot wait. When England win it, I'm having ACL reconstruction for 3 hours. And I cannot wait for it if England win. All right. So I'm at peace with it because England should not have won that game. I was so impressed with Sweden. Stina Blackstenius gets a lot of criticism and a lot of hate, but in this Swedish system, I think every bit of her quality shines through. The way she runs into the channels, the way she can hold up play, every bit about her. I'm like, oh, if you put her into a team that works for her, like I'd love to see her at maybe. I was going to say at Man United. I think her in a Man United team could be really nice to the way that she works. I didn't think Aslani was going to be as good as she was, but I thought she was absolutely phenomenal in that midfield. I did laugh, but also thought, oh, that's so sad that as soon as she goes off, Sweden concede the 2 goals. I thought, oh, come on now. That's it. Are they just lacking a bit of leadership on the pitch when someone like Aslani and Rolfo went off? I think in the same substitution. That's so much like 150 odd caps of experience. Maybe no, or even 300 odd caps of experience just off like that in a minute. Like that's so much, and you could look at that and think, well, that makes sense. But no, so many of that Swedish team are going to be blamed for just a little mentality loss. But they were tremendous. They'll be absolutely gutted, I'm sure. They've let that go, but I still think, well, they were the better team. No one's going to argue that. But Serena Wiegman, let's see what kind of manager you are. Do you like your favourites? Do you like upsetting people? Because let's see what you really want to do. Because if you take Italy lightly for 1 second, going to punish you.
Well, it hurts me sometimes how much you dislike England, Sean. But there we go. I'm getting used to it now, so I can take that on the chin and progress with my professional discussion by talking to Liberty, which is wonderful news. So. Somebody who shares your name, it's amazing. Somebody called Liberty Simons has put Falk has scored penalties in shootouts before, namely in the Svenska Cupen semi-final last season for BK Häcken, so don't write her off. My question for you is, I think, quite a fair one, because I've grown up watching football and I've done so for more years than I care to count, about 38 now years of watching football. And it was really interesting because in this quarterfinals, I think I've seen more goalkeepers stepping up to be taking penalties, especially higher up the pecking order, than ever before. Now, if you were to ask me to think about any goalkeeper who is incredibly good at taking penalties, I'd go all the way back to the Paraguayan Jose Luis Chilavert, who was superb. He used to take all of their free kicks, all of their penalties. The guy I think he was left-footed, and he had an absolute wonder one. But I just kind of feel like there's something wrong if your goalkeeper is stepping up before half of your team. Like, that is an incredible amount of pressure to stick on someone who really probably spends most of their time practicing goal kicks. And in the end, that's what she took, because it was high over the bar. So I want you to just sort of talk to me a little bit of that, because maybe I'm just wrong. Maybe this is just a different sort of thing. But it feels weird to me that they're so high up on the. We saw it with Ann-Katrin Berger, who, fair play, absolutely nailed it, and we'll get to her. But it's a bit odd, no? And what did you make of the Sweden game?
Yeah. Firstly, to go back to my comment, also in that shootout, that semi-final was against Hammarby, and Smilla Homber actually converted her penalty in that shootout for Hammarby. So both of them can score penalties, but I digress. I think I remember reading before the World Cup something about how technically goalkeepers should be really good penalty takers because when they are taking goal kicks, they have to be really precise with their placement of where the goal kick is going to go. So technically, that should be able to translate to a penalty if you can get it on target. That being said, the time in the World Cup, I remember I was sat downstairs in my house watching the Australia-France shootout. My mum walks in and she went, "Oh, that's the goalkeeper." And it was Mackenzie Arnold for Australia. And I said, yes, technically, goalkeepers should be really good at taking penalties because they have to be really precise, blah, 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 what I basically just said. And then she hit the post and it goes out. And then I was like, I am the issue. And I actually do hold my hands up. I do think I'm a jinx because I also tweeted during this game, Falk is really good, very underrated, because for people who don't know Jennifer Falk, she's never left Sweden. She's only ever played for Swedish teams. She's 29. She's had a really... Oh, Sean's gone. She's had a really full career, but she's never left Sweden. So many people don't know her. And then somebody said, the last time you said a goalkeeper was good, it was Kinga Szczesmik against Arsenal. And then she conceded 3 after West Ham had gone ahead. So you are a jinx, please shut up. And then I said, I'm not a jinx, I was fine. And then I clearly am a jinx. And then on Thursday, the Germany game, I tweeted, I never want to see a penalty again in my life, and then it went to a shootout. So I am clearly the issue, and I'm going to stop talking forever. But yes, I think it is slightly strange. I think Sweden is, to go back to the original point, Sweden's shootout is a very interesting predicament because supposedly Gerhardsson has done a press conference today, actually, and he said Hannah Bennison is a penalty taker, but she was unavailable for the game because she was injured, but nobody in the squad knew that she was injured. She picked up an injury against Germany, and she was the only player that didn't warm up in the England game at all. So you're immediately down 1 penalty taker. He also said Stina Blackstenius had to come off when she did because she had some sort of muscle injury. She was in a lot of pain, and he said, look, if we're going to go through, I need my best players, so I had to take her off. Then you have Lena Hurtig, obviously scored that very famous one in the USA shootout in the World Cup. And a few weeks ago, to the Swedish media, right at the beginning of the tournament, she essentially talked about the last 2 years in football, how she's not played a lot. She's had lots of time away with personal issues. She essentially said the attention she got from that penalty, from the media, from everyone, really affected her mental health. And she wasn't really enjoying football. It's a lot of attention that she's not used to. And she's very shy, very quiet, doesn't like to talk to anyone really. Last season, when she scored that winner against Juve for Arsenal, she actually refused to do media afterwards because it's really just not like her. She said it was really hard for her to comprehend, plus some other personal stuff, and it really affected her mental health. So it's understandable why she didn't want to take one, because a lot of the online buzz was, why didn't Lena Hurtig take one? But actually she has a very valid reason. Supposedly as well, Gerhardsson said today that Rebecca Blomqvist, who came on for Blackstenius in the 117th minute, she missed her penalty against the USA, and supposedly that's the reason why she didn't want to take one against England. That does leave some questions about why you'd bring her on in that time over someone like Ellen Vangerheim, who potentially would have been able to take one. Then you have questions about the order. I don't think an 18-year-old who's got 5 caps for her country should be taking such a high pressure penalty. Personally, I think if you're going to have a kid take a penalty, she should be in the first 5, so at least it's not knockout, essentially. And then also you have the thing of him saying, we didn't practice. I didn't have an order. Smeller actually came out afterwards, after the game, and said, I got asked 2 minutes before the shootout even happened if I wanted to take one, and I just said yes, because she's obviously going to say yes. Like, I think it's courageous if you say no and say I don't feel comfortable, but I also think it's courageous if you say yes, especially somebody so young. But yeah, it was a mess. Both sets of penalties in this game were dreadful, and I'm not I don't hate England nearly as much as Connor and Sean, but I'm not a big England fan. However, when I'm also not a very big Lucy Bronze fan in general, that's sort of my own personal thing. But when she smashed that one in, I thought, thank God that this is nearly over, because it was painful and I didn't want to watch anymore. But then you have Michelle Agerman come out and say to ITV this week that she was the penalty after Lucy Bronze. So it's all a mess. I don't think really anyone prepared for these penalties very well. And look, it's a really sad, but for Sweden, it's a really sad way to say goodbye to Gardsson after everything he has done for this team. You know, in every other major tournament other than this one, they've finished top 4, if not top 3, with medals. He has been quite revolutionary to this current Sweden setup and this sort of getting the best out of players like Asllani, Caroline Sager when she was playing. Obviously, she's retired now. Stina Blackstenius, as Sean was saying, Rolfo. And for this to be his goodbye is really sad, but at the same time, he's set the foundations for Tony Gustafsson to build on, and he's brought in youth players for him to build on. I think a lot of criticisms around Gustafsson with Australia was he didn't bring in nearly enough youth as they would have liked from the A-League, but Gardsson set that up already for him to take over. Giving Smiller a start against Germany was something I was very shocked by. I thought Lundqvist would start every game. I honestly really didn't think Smiller would play at all. I thought Ellen would get some subs. I'm now just talking about Hammarby players, but these are the young players that he's brought in. And the fact that they're getting, full 90 minutes in major tournaments under him is going to prove that they are, to Gustafsson, going to be key. And then he can't ignore them because, Asllani is not going to be able to play forever. Rolfo is not going to be able to play forever, etc., etc. And I think he set the foundations really well for him to build off of. But at the same time, it is a really, really sad way to say goodbye. But I think maybe that's down to some of his own bad planning around the shootout and subsequent substitutes before that, namely bringing on players that aren't. I don't know. It was very strange.
It really was. It was an incredibly strange game. And as I say, I wasn't happy. Wasn't happy with the level of performance, certainly for the first 45 minutes. And then it got a little bit better, but just it wasn't really coming off in the manner that I think England would have wanted it to. They did end up with more. They had more shots in the end, but it was Sweden who had more shots on target. England did have more possession or more passing, but Sweden did all the running, 148.6 kilometres. It was the most of anybody in the quarterfinals. So it was pretty even for the most part, really, which is quite something. And I know you can't prepare for penalties, but then by the same token, I believe you can, and I will explain why I believe you can in 2 games' time, because it's no good talking about it on this one here. But I do want to just say about this one, absolutely, Smilla Holmberg is indeed a superstar. She stepped up, she gave it a go, and it's the worst thing in the world when you feel like you are the one who is responsible for your side leaving a major tournament. And I just think it's really important that everybody understands on there that it was the vast majority of the Sweden outfield that were the problem there. And even Jennifer Falk, how do you save 4 penalties and still lose? That's insane. She must have gone home just... I wouldn't be surprised if she was just shouting and screaming on the bus and all sorts of things, probably getting her own plane ticket home. I would have done that because I think she's been absolutely mugged off by the rest of the people in her team. So there we go. Like I say, 2 of us said that England would make it to the semi-finals, and that is, of course, Freya, as we said, who got Italy against England, and my very good self. also said that England would make it to the semi-finals. So yay us at this moment in time. Sadly, Liberty thought Sweden would make it to the semi-finals. And so therefore she has dropped out on our initial ones. But there we go. We've all still got somebody in the hat, which is great news. And that takes us obviously to match number 3. Now, I don't have a huge amount to say about this game because I do have to confess that of all of the games that have been played this season in the tournament, this is the one that I have missed. It was our end of school year do that we had. So we had a school quiz and a silent disco. I've never done one of those before. Absolutely amazing. Wasn't expecting that. So I had a great time, but I was trying to keep up with the scores. And I was really impressed to see that Switzerland were 0-0 right up until about the 60th minute, when then all of a sudden 2 goals went in. So imagine my surprise when I came home to try and have a look at the highlights to find out that Spain had, and you won't believe this, folks, missed 2 penalties. Which they're just popping up everywhere. Penalties in every single quarter-final. It's absolutely crazy. Now, we do have Elvis. So there we go, proof positive. He's not dead. He's right here. This could be Connor's alt, actually, to be fair. Because we do know he likes a bit of Elvis. But Sean, we're going to come to you first on this one. Is it just more proof that Spain are actually human and there is potentially a way into beating them? You tell me.
To be fair, I don't think Spain have looked excellent apart from that Portugal game. I think Belgium, that 5-2 showed, was it 5-6-2, whatever it was. Belgium showed ways you can get at the Spain team. I thought Italy as well showed a number of ways you can get at the Spain team. I think it's just a thing of, for Switzerland, the emotion, the sense of pride of just getting out of the group in the way they did. I think that took so much out of them because you could see how much it meant to them and to the nation. And they weren't going to win. Let's be real. We can praise them all we want, but they just parked the bus a little bit. I can't remember them having a shot maybe in the 88th minute. It was their first shot where it really tested Catacol. It was gone by then. But I hope this is a kickstarter for Switzerland. I hope professionalise the league, bring in some young players, because we've seen Switzerland have got such a good crop of young players coming through, and I hope now there's a system enabled, the structures are there, so we can see more players like those come through. Man City getting Bene, by the way, that's not fair, is it? But on Spain, I mean, I think what we've seen a lot of in these quarterfinals is how strong and important a good bench is. Because I think having someone like Athenia Del Castillo on your bench, just be able to bring her on, and she's got her tricks, but she's got power as well. She's got a bit of she can do a bit of everything, and she's a perfect winger, and she can also just play inside a little bit. And I think we sometimes also take for granted the magic and the prowess of someone like a Bonmati and a Pates, because that assist by Bonmati to Athenia was sublime. But yeah, and then Claudia Pina with a great goal. The only problem I have with that Swiss player, Leah Volti, who I think has been exceptional this tournament, you can't just go down and expect a free kick there. Like, come on, you've played this for so long, you're a captain, come on, just don't quit right there. And then they score from it. But no, I think Spain, again, it wasn't great by any means, but I think with the teams that are coming with this semi-final, especially either final, who they could play in a final if they get through, I think these teams suit their style of play more, will allow them more opportunities to get in behind, because the way they transition so quickly is frightening. And I think against a very depleted Germany team, that is going to help them out a lot. But yeah, overall, not surprised by this result, but I hope this is a kickstarter for Switzerland, because they've been brilliant hosts. The fans have turned up every time, made noise, and yeah, I hope this is not the last time we see them do so well in a major tournament.
I mean, absolutely. We've spoken a lot about how well the tournament has gone. You know, we've got over 500,000 people, obviously, that have been to watch these games live, which is absolutely superb. They seem to have got the numbers right in all of the stadiums that they have put the teams in. So fair play to them. But yes, Switzerland, Liberty, a very interesting side. They've worked hard. They've had us with our hearts and our mouths at times, and certainly added to the entertainment value. And to be fair, did an incredible job of showing how being a host nation can really help to push you on a little bit. But I suppose my question here really is part of the issue here, the fact that when people say, as we said just a little bit earlier, that you're never going to hold out for 90 minutes versus Spain. I mean, I'm not entirely sure that's true. I do think you've got the possibility, if you can get the game plan right and you can defend correctly, you're in with a shout, you would think. I mean, it will be hard, don't get me wrong. But it's a little bit of this, just a lack of goals that they actually had in their team. Because when you sit and look about how they've done over all of the 4 games that they played, they had 4 goals. 2 of them were against Iceland, obviously, 1 against Norway and 1 against Finland. And it wasn't ideal from their point of view. Those are the goals that they physically scored. So they weren't prolific in front of goal. And I know there's not many teams that you would really claim to be prolific, but ultimately, was that just what let them down? They just didn't have that final ball.
I was hoping you'd ask this because listening to Sean just then and thinking about Switzerland, my thought, I wanted to say they really need a proper striker, like Jorelli style, like proper old school striker, because I do think that's what they're missing. You know, you can have Geraldine Reuteler playing across the pitch. You can have Bene playing across the pitch. You can have all these players that can, you know, just do whatever you ask of them. But if they've got nobody on the other end when they send a cross in, what's the point? Like, you know, these players run themselves into the ground. And if you've got no one to put, you know, a foot through and send it in, or a header to get on the end of a cross, like, what's the point? Because it really feels like that's the one thing they're missing, because the rest of the squad are really talented. Look, I think potentially, you know, they need some more depth in defence, but at the end of the day, if you can score, it doesn't matter how many you concede. And I also think, you know, Livia Peng's had a really good tournament and has really shown herself, especially for quite a young goalkeeper. And I hope she sort of doesn't just bench ride at Chelsea, because I think that'd be a really shame for her, because I think this has been a really good showing for her. But I do think they need like a proper striker, whether that is, I don't think they have that in the squad right now, but I think, you know, there's probably a kid coming up that could do that. That do you look at youth stages and pull somebody up and say, look, you're going to train with the big kids now, here's what you want you to do. But I think they've shown themselves so brilliantly. I think, you know, somebody like Reuteler has really put herself on the map. Don't know if I said this last week. I actually definitely did, but I like the brag of she plays for Eintracht Frankfurt in the Frauen Bundesliga, and she was my player of the season for Frankfurt last season. She basically, what you saw in this Euros was how she was the entire season. She will play wherever you want her to play. She will do everything you want her to do. She'll defend, she'll attack, she'll score goals. She's really, really excellent. And also, yeah, the young player is also really good. I also think I think this tournament is going to help Switzerland, because Switzerland's makeup of people is so broad, as in you can have people that are Swiss, but they also are Norwegian. They also are Spanish. They have these players in their squad right now who are, you know, Smilla Vlato's Swiss, Norwegian, Italian. That is like an insane combination through her parents. She chose to represent Switzerland after coming up through the Norwegian youth stages, and then U19s she went, I'm going to go and play for Switzerland, got called up to the seniors, and has basically started every game since. That one of their defenders is Laia Badayeste. I apologize if that's wrong. She's Spanish, and she chose to represent Switzerland through her grandfather. She has a Swiss grandfather, I believe. So they have these players that are multinational, and if you can prove that the foundations of your national team are good enough and you are pushing for more, you'll have players that maybe aren't going to get a look in at other national teams that are better, will go to Switzerland because they know that they're going to play like Velato. They know that they are also building something, and I think this is going to be something they can build on, that sort of approach. I would very much not like Reutler to go to United. Thank you very much. That would really crush my soul. I think
now,
she should.
Important question there, and let's take the bias out of it. Is that because you just don't like Man United, or because actually you think she will do an incredible job and that he might well be right?
Potentially, but I also would really like her to stay at Frankfurt. I think that is a system that works really well for her, and I think that that's proving her best, and I would really like her to stay there. But yeah, I do think she would potentially be really, really good in the WSL, wherever that could be. But at the moment, I'd like her to stay in Germany. But I think this. I don't just think, I sort of know this is going to be Switzerland's jumping point. And no country takes to women's football that wasn't before quite like they have, without there being like proper change. 25,000 people on that final fan walk is insane. That is more people than were at my university by 15,000. Like this is like proper change in a country that has never really been a footballing country. So yeah, I can't wait to see what happens from here, because this is very much the beginning.
Very much the beginning. That's what I think is so good, is seeing how just this little tournament, European Championships, how it is transforming the countries that it's been in. It's done it in England, and now it's carrying that tradition on over in Switzerland, which is absolutely brilliant, which is great news. Freya, we're going to pop over to you to ask you a little bit about this as well. And Spain, I mean, they had a very good game for the most part, insofar as they won. But as we said, 2 penalties missed. Mariona Caldente very early on in the game, which you do kind of wonder if they'd have popped that in after 9 minutes, whether or not we might have seen a slightly different scoreline, because they would have had their tails up and been less frustrated in terms of not scoring. But obviously, if wishes were fishes, the world would be an ocean, and it's not. So she missed. And of course, again, talking about seeing how people are human, Alexia Putellas missing her one as well in the 88th minute. But you look at those guys, they are really good players. Putellas, as we've said, has scored 3 goals this campaign, whilst Caldente's got a couple of assists there as well. She's got a goal. We know that Putellas has got 4 assists as well. So these are 2 players that are incredible. So when we sit here and we start talking about standard of penalties isn't all that great, and as I say, we get all these people jumping on it, let's be absolutely clear on this one. Like, even the best players in the world miss penalties. I'm sure Ronaldo's missed penalties, Messi's missed penalties. Like, everybody will miss them at some point in their life. But what did you make of it? You saw it. You were obviously sitting there and watching it. You watched every single game live on your channels. What were you thinking on this one? Because, like I said, I was genuinely hoping that Switzerland were going to pull off the biggest upset in the history of the world.
So was I. Yeah, so we've been watching them all live. And the thing that really stood out was, yes, Spain have got incredible players. We all know that. Everyone talks about how good Spain are. I want to talk about what was going on in that first half, because they weren't playing like Spain. There were some issues. There were massive communication issues. If you weren't watching the ball and you were actually watching how they were interacting with each other, they were incredibly frustrated. They were getting angry at each other. They were running into each other. It didn't seem like they fully knew where each other were going to be. And that's something that you don't really see from a Spanish team too often. And because there were those moments where they were getting angry at each other, and it wasn't even a subtle, like, obviously you're going to shout because, loud game, you've got to shout at each other. But the body language between the team wasn't great. And we know what that Spanish team have been through. Like, we know the past couple of years have been awful. And you just think their relationships have always been really good with each other on the pitch. So something wasn't quite right in that first half. And it showed, because Switzerland, as we've seen, came out attacking straight away. The Reutler, I was going to mention her if no one else did, so I'm really glad she's been brought up. She was attacking in such a threat. Noelle Moritz, just want to shout out her as well. Just doing her best Lucy Bronze impression, driving forward. And all of these attacks were coming through. And the fact that they frustrated Spain enough to the point that it was 0-0 for so long, and it took a moment of because it was a lovely goal by Athenia, it really was. And then Claudia Pina, her goal as well. I mean, that could go up for one of the goals of the tournament, couldn't it? It was beautiful. What I also want to say about that game, where was VAR? What was the officiating? Because every other game has had at least a couple offside check, goal check, penalty check, all of these things. So a bit like what Sean said, Leah Volti can't have just stood still and been like, you should have given me that foul. However, why wasn't there a check when she was held back for a good amount of time for then Claudia Pina to rob the ball off her feet and then score that goal? So it felt a bit, shambles is a bit of a strong word. It just felt really disjointed in that officiating as well. And watching it left a bit of a bad taste in the mouth, personally. Everyone else can disagree, that's fine. But yeah, just watching it, and you're like, oh, but Switzerland, like there was so much more to come from that team. And I think that was maybe a frustration as well. But yeah, Spain did it. Athenia showed why she can be a super sub. And that her and Gonzalez and Pina to a certain extent, but they've got that creativity and that attack. I think I was talking about last week, that they're not stuck in their like rigid scheme of, right, we're going to tick attacker, we're going to go sideways, and then we'll eventually go forward. They drive forward and they're exciting to watch. So yeah, it was really disappointing, but like everyone else has said, I really hope that this is the moment for Switzerland now to really kick on, because they've got some fantastic players. Again, underrated, maybe because they don't play in the WSL, but we are going to see that in the future, which is fantastic. We were possibly thinking Reutler to Liverpool could maybe be a good fit if they sort themselves out. Yeah, not United, sorry. But yeah, I'd love to see it. But even if she doesn't move, because like Liberty said, Frankfurt really suits her, just that for her to have the interest from other teams, the fact that she will have been noticed would be an incredible step forward. So yeah, it was a bit of a disappointing game overall. But yeah, Spain do Spain things, don't they?
No, absolutely. And yeah, again, we've got to hand it, as I said, to Switzerland. They've done incredibly well. I said it was over 500,000. It's 574,117 people as it stands that have walked through the turnstiles to watch this tournament. And I don't know if somebody's nicked that and stuck that on Twitter earlier on today, but I'm not going to ask the question because Rob absolutely mugged me right off the last time that happened. So no quiz for you. I'm just going to tell you this time, and then people can just claim I've stolen it off of other people. That'll be much easier. But yeah, very good. And in answer to your question, Sian Massey-Ellis was the assistant VAR in that game, Freya. But she was also the assistant VAR in the next game, which, I mean, it just about had it all, didn't it? I was pleased it was the last game of the 4 because I was really looking forward to it. You know, this was like the olden days. This was Bruno Tyson. You know, this was Eubank Ben. It was the two giants just coming at each other. My God, did they ever. And it was, for me, I thought probably one of the best games that I have seen throughout the entire tournament. And it had everything, absolutely everything that you could possibly wish for. And I mean, like Germany, they're just, at the minute, they just seem like they're fighting with one hand tied behind their back, a leg cut off. It reminded me a little bit of, if you've ever seen it, the Monty Python and the Holy Grail, where you've got the knight that's just sort of stood there and they chop off his arm and he's like, it's all right, I'll beat you with one hand, and they chop the other one off and he's just sort of trying to kick him, and then both the legs are cut off and he's still arguing, still shouting. And that was Germany. They just refused to give up. They looked as though they were a side that were just about to walk out of the tournament. a red card after 13 minutes, as if things weren't bad enough. They give away a penalty, and she moans about it. I mean, I don't think Hendrick can have a moan. She's pulled her hair. You can't do that. Like, it's just, that's violent conduct. You're going to get sent off for that. You simply cannot pull someone's hair and then whinge that you've been sent off for it. It's never going to happen. And then, of course, Euro goes up and scores the penalty, which was absolutely mad. And you start thinking, well, that's it. Germany are out of it. They've lost it. It's not going to go well. But then Nusken equalises, and you think, well, my God, they've somehow pulled themselves back in there, but surely they'll tire. And then they don't. And then Nusken misses a penalty, and you're like, well, that wasn't on the bingo card either. And then she gets booked, so she's going to miss the semi-final. It was giving me Roy Keane against Juventus sort of vibes here. I'm like, oh, what is going to happen next in this game? What more can you possibly give us? And of course, it went to extra time, and then we ended up in penalties again. We really did see an incredible penalty shootout on that one. So, I mean, Liberty will just come straight to you for this one. You're the resident German expert. We talk about you can't practice penalties. I felt like every German was going to score because they're just known for it. So they must be able to do it. It's not just in your DNA that you can take a penalty. There's got to be something that they're doing at a young age, or something that builds them up through that allows them to be so technically good at penalties. Because the men's team have been men's team have been superb, but the girls' team just as good, like really good penalties.
Yeah, I said when it went to extra time, and I said, I can't remember to who, but somebody I said, if this goes to penalties, I would want Anne Katzenberger in goal for my penalties, like on my team, because she is one of the best when it comes to facing penalties. I mean, we talk about, Alexia missing hers in the Spain game. The last time she missed a penalty was in the bronze medal match last Olympics. And who was she facing in goal that day? Oh, it was Anne Katzenberger. And she saves it. And it was one of the best saves I've ever seen in a penalty I've ever seen a keeper make, that one in the Olympics. So then she steps up and does it again. She is unbelievable, but all of them are so good at taking them as well. I think that it must be something they practice. Like, I don't think you just are good at it by chance. I think I believe that you have to practice somewhat. I think if you're doing shooting practice, you might as well do penalty practice as well, because it's essentially the same thing. Obviously, there's not the pressure and the, oh my God, this is do or die. But if you practice your penalty 5 times and every time your brain has gone go bottom right, when you step up to take one in an actual shootout, your brain's going to go bottom right. And you don't have that moment of, oh no, should I go top left? Should I go down the middle? Like, just, you know what you want to do and you're just going to do it. But sorry, this is broken, by the way. I just thought I'd point that out. If you're sure and you've practiced, you already know what you're going to do. Obviously, then you have the risk of the keeper doing their homework like Berger did and had her bottle, which I always love when they have the little sheet on the bottle with all the placements. But yeah, they just are unbelievable. And I think to some extent I had no way of seeing how France were going to win this, which is really ironic. But there was something in the mentality of this German team as soon as they went down to 10 that I just thought, yeah, okay, they're going to win this. I mean, they were technically down to 10 even before she got sent off, because Minga was injured for about 10 minutes and was getting her foot strapped to the high heavens, and then they went, oh no, actually she can't play on. And also we're down a defender, so we're going to bring Sophia Kleinhorn on. By the way, should be starting for Germany. The fact that there are wingers playing out of position in defence and she's not starting is ridiculous. She is an exceptional defender. So I'm really glad she actually had a really good showing and shown what she could do. Sean's gone again. And yeah, I think every part of I think what helps is that Germany went down to 10 the game before, which is really slightly counterintuitive, but I think they went down to 10 against Sweden, and in the time that they were down to 10, they only conceded 1 goal, other than the penalty. So I don't count penalties as conceding if you go down to 10, if you've gone down to 10 because of the penalty. I think that's like, that's probably really stupid of me, but I think if you've gone down to 10 and the penalty's been awarded, that really doesn't really count. It's not like helpful in any way. So the Sweden game, they only conceded 1 after the penalty, and then they don't concede at all in the France game after the penalty. I hope that makes sense. But they were compact. They were really annoying, which I think is really what was needed. Very compact, sort of how Switzerland were against Spain. Your brand is the type of player that everyone knows in some aspect. Everyone knows who Brand is, sort of how she's really good. But I do think this was potentially her best ever performance, at least for Germany. She ran herself ragged in the best way possible. I've never seen her defend so hard, which I think was needed, because we all know the threat of the French front line, even when they bring on subs, when they bring on Melvin Mallard, who is a really excellent striker, when they bring on Clara Matteo, who scored 18 goals for Paris this season. You know, these are players that are really, really excellent attackers. And when you are already down to 10, you have to work even harder. And I think everyone did. There were some questions at the beginning whether, starting Giovanna Hoffmann over Schuler was potentially the right idea. It was, especially when they went down to 10, because she sort of just was annoying, the same way everyone was. And I think, this is potentially one of the best Germany performances I've ever seen. Because I think at times this Germany team have felt, yes, they're very good. They're a very good team. They are really talented. But at times they've had a sense of not having that extra edge. They are sort of like, they know they're good, but they don't try hard enough, which is really stupid, but that's sort of just how I feel. But they really tried this game. And I think they also really tried in the Sweden game, even though it really didn't go their way that day. But I think, this was probably the best I've ever seen them. And hats off to them. Earlier, sorry, I will stop talking in 30 seconds. Somebody said earlier, I'm surprised Freigang hasn't had a bigger role. Me too. I think Dahlmann is not great, and also not really what this Germany team needs. They need somebody who is going to bomb the box and just get ahead on something, and that is Freigang to a T. That is her character. That's how she plays football, and the fact that he was playing Dahlmann over her, especially in the first 2 games, really surprises me. So I think, Laura Freigang should have more minutes. Connor's not going to be surprised by that at all. But at the end of the day, it happened. Dahlmann's penalty was very good, and I can't fault her for that. And she was very much brought on to take that penalty, which I think is, fair enough. But hats off to Germany.
No, absolutely, and some great points there from a sporty one about why didn't Baltimore start. I mean, she didn't really start too many games for them anyway. It was a bit stop-start on there, but again, when Mallard hit the bar right at the very end, you did kind of wonder if this had Germany's name written on it. I was going to come to you, Freya, but we are going to have to just come to Sean, I think, first, even though he is now apparently completely in the dark. I don't know what's happened there. He was there and now he's not. I can't see him. Can you see him? Can we take him out and put him back in again?
Nope.
It's hard to tell what's going on. Looks like he's frozen, which doesn't help. So I can see him at the bottom of my screen. It's really bizarre, but he's not moving. He's just stuck there like this, which is quite interesting. So maybe I will end up coming to you, Freya. He's clearly having technical difficulties, which is a shame. But I was going to say about Germany, they've been exceptional, really, all throughout the year, and that's what I was going to do. There was a couple of things here. You've got people saying, how do you prepare penalties? I answered that question. They very much do so. this one, Freya, was unreal. What on earth was the run up for the first? I watched it. She was virtually at the corner of the box. I'm thinking, this is a hell of a run. Like, what on earth are you about to do? And she just spins herself around, has a little hop and is going, boom. And the minute I saw her there, I thought she ain't scoring this. And she didn't. So that was just crazy. But also, Couture asking Hoffman a better alternative to Rachel Williams, but she's younger. So you're certainly going to get more out of her. But Rachel Williams does also have the experience. So, who knows? Could potentially be the case. But for yes, Germany, they've nailed it in so many ways. They were incredibly lucky. He is back. He is moving. No, he's very much gone. This is not good news. He's giving it a go, bless him. I think we're probably going to have to accept the fact that Sean is no longer with us on this one. She took a quick trip to Asda on that run up. She might as well have gone to Iceland, to be fair, because it wasn't going to work. But yeah, so Freya, Germany, great win for them. And it just goes to show that never say die attitude that they've got. They really dug themselves a trench and just went, we will not give up. And that was the thing. Defensively, they were awesome. And it would have been, I think, quite bad had Minga's header actually gone into the goal. But Ann-Katrin Berger, I mean, she was a Chelsea goalkeeper, so I'm never gonna be her biggest fan. But I was sitting there going, that is bloody unbelievable. The story of that woman is unreal. And to literally dig her side out of it in the manner that she did and then go on to score the penalty, like, it's just an absolute 10th level boss, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about Ann-Katrin Berger, like what a legend. Not just for everything she's been through, but what she can pull off on the pitch. She's just incredible. And she's the kind of leader you also need in your team, that confidence and that skill, and just her prep for penalties is insane. The fact that she literally just stands there, stares down her opponent, hands behind her back, and she's like, come on then. And it's the perfect thing. And yet when Marjorie started that run up, you could almost forgive it a little bit if it went in. But the fact it then didn't, and you were like, you didn't need to do any of that. You were the first one up. Literally all you had to do was have a little run up and smash it in the back of the net. She didn't even get the power behind it. She started half a mile down the road, and it was just like she'd gone, and like it just didn't do anything. And you just think, Marjorie, because she came on substitute quite late as well, and you think, again, in the French manager's mind, that must have been going through. So a lot of those substitutions, they worked very well on the German part, as Liberty mentioned. But yeah, the French side, as soon as Cascarino's goal, which would have been insane if that had stood, by the way, that little just side flick back heel, whatever it was trying to be. If that had gone in, that would have been beautiful. But as soon as that was ruled out, it felt like the French, they had the best opportunities, the best chances, and they couldn't make it click. They couldn't make it work, because you had Hoffman in these incredible battles. You had Julebrand. How she was still running by the end of that game, I do not know, because she was everywhere on that pitch. And if Ann-Katrin Berger wasn't on the pitch, I think she should have got player of the match, because what a time of it. But yeah, the fact that Germany were down players and they pushed on and they kept attacking, because it would have been very easy to go, right, what's a new game plan? What are we going to do? But the fact that they never looked out of it was incredible. So yeah, as soon as it got to penalties, I was like, Germany have got to do this. This is going to be the best almost redemption arc of the tournament for such a rough, horrendous start. To then get through, and just to have that moment where Ann-Katrin Berger just drops to her knees and she's like, yep, we've done it. But then the bloody ref makes them pause, doesn't she? It's like, hang on, we need to check. And it's like, just let them celebrate. Just let them go. But yeah, so they finally got that moment. But yeah, substitutions definitely played a part in that. I think France, I know they were thinking about penalties, but taking off De Almeida, taking off Graschioro, taking off these big player names in the final 10, 15 minutes, just I think again that bit of edge just kind of went from France. But as someone said in the chat earlier, France doing France things. They get so far and then they just can't seem to get it over the line. So yeah, Germany deserving winners if you take away that red card, because that was awful. But the rest of the game fully deserved for that.
Fully apt it was, like, genuinely, like I say, it lived up to absolutely everything. You're completely correct. Baltimore did start against England. I'm sorry, I just had to go back to my comprehensive notes that I have got for them all. And she started to, and she's been subbed on into. So she played in every single game. I think it was Netherlands was the other one that she started. But that's all I was saying. It's not that she doesn't start, just that she's sort of started one, not started one, started one, not started one. So clearly not convinced as to where their left back should be. And TJ, yeah, you're saying France weren't prepared. I mean, I don't think I can agree with that on this one. I think they've scored 5 out of their 7 penalties. And, you know, I think if England had scored 5 out of their penalties, we'd be having very different conversations as well. Liberty, you don't have to put your hand up. You should have gone to the toilet before you came on.
No, I don't know if anyone heard, but on ITV, oh goodness, I can't remember her name.
Laura George?
Yes. She was saying that France didn't practice penalties in very much the same way as Sweden. He was like, I don't believe in it. I don't want it to be a distraction. I don't want them to think about that until it gets to it. So, you know, props to them for doing so well, because apparently, whether or not that's true or not, supposedly they didn't practice them. But yeah. But I do think they were prepared, but they didn't practice, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think they had more of a idea of order than Sweden did, where Sweden were just sort of chaotic.
No, that's fair. And again, I mean, the first one missed because, like I say, she decided to go all the way around the houses, deliver all the letters to all the houses that were there, and stopping for cups of tea before finally hitting the bleeding ball. Like, sometimes just a straight run up is more than enough. But there we go. And of course, the last one there was a bit of a delay. A lot of replacing the ball on the spot, which can get into it. But again, this is why I know a lot of people don't like penalties. I love them. And this is why, because ultimately you've played for 120 minutes. There's only a certain amount of time you can play for. At some point, you've just got to go, do you know what? Let's find a way to finish it. And it is the most entertaining way. Like, we all hate them, but at the same time, I sit there, FA Cup, whatever it might be, and if it's not my team, I'm sitting there going, go to penalties, go to penalties. I love a penalty shootout. It's brilliant watching these other teams do them. I hate them when it's my team, but I love them when it's everybody else, because they are so entertaining. So there we go. So I can confirm as well then that out of all of those, Freya, you have correctly identified 3 teams to make it through in semi-finals in Italy, England and Spain. You did think that Sweden were going to do it, but as I said to you in our last show, you couldn't, because obviously England were playing Sweden, so you had no hope on that one. And Liberty, you've done quite well as well. You've suggested Italy, Spain and Germany. You got all of those. You also felt that Sweden were going to go through. And if only you'd said England, if you'd have said England somewhere through there, I mean, you couldn't, because England were playing Germany in your fantasy one there. But yeah, 3 out of 4, so not bad for you. Sean, not too bad either. He also got Italy, Spain and Germany, but he went for France. And I don't know how to tell you this, guys, but I'm the winner of this round, because I've got written down quite happily there that Italy, Spain, Germany and England. I have correctly. I've not got them in the right games, so it's all going to go very wrong somewhere through there. But, you know, there's a chance. There is a chance. I'm not going to get a Germany-Spain. Well, I might get a Germany-Spain fine. No, I won't, will I? Because they're playing. So, no, it's not going to happen. My final has happened in the semis. But maybe I still get Germany to win the Euro Cup. We shall see. Before we move into those semi-finals and just see where we think they're going to end up, I just want to kind of highlight just briefly as well what's happened with Jess Carter. It was something that I wanted to highlight quite badly, actually, because I just don't understand how it is that we've reached a point in our lives where we've got people taking the knee, all of these things going on. How is it that we are still in a society where people can't differentiate between a player not being necessarily good or not liking a player? And I mean, you said, Liberty, you're not a huge fan of Lucy Bronze. She's not my favourite, but I'm quite happy at sitting there and saying, if it wasn't for Lucy Bronze, maybe England wouldn't be in the semi-finals, because she was without doubt one of the better players that we had on the pitch. But we sit here and we talk about disliking people and tribalism, and you can turn around and say that somebody's had a rubbish game of football. Why is it that when we're sitting there and emotion gets the better of all of us? You know, don't get me wrong, there's numerous football players over the years who I might have said were absolutely atrocious and terrible, and their jokes for being able to get paid to play football. You know, you might say those sorts of things because you were emotional, but at no point has it ever crossed my mind that I might want to talk about the nationality or the colour or the gender, even in some cases of these people. So why is it that this is still rearing its head to the point that Jess Carter's had to say, well, I'm going to come off of social media, I'm going to set a team that are going to reply and deal with all those sorts of things, and lead to England having to sit there and say, well, we're not going to bother taking the knee because what's the point? It's not making a difference. It's creeping its way over now, even into the women's game. And it's just, I don't understand the mentality of it. So what can we do about this? How can we stop it? Because, I mean, I think the answer is you can't, because these people are always going to have a platform within which to spout this bile. So, but then, I'm rambling now, I'm sorry, but then it takes you down that level that I think most women have had to go through, which is like, they're the ones that are being put on the blame. It's like saying to Jess Carter, actually, just don't go on social media. But why shouldn't she be allowed to go on social media just because other people are going to be horrible to her? It's not her fault. So I don't know. You tell me. You're the ladies. You know better than I what it is to be a woman. So tell me, how can you get through this situation? Because it's ridiculous. I thought the women's game would be a lot better at being more accepting, because it is in general, but apparently still a long way to go. So open to either of you if you think you've got anything you can add to that.
Yeah, I think what people need to remember, and a lot of this, it's not the proper fans, and a lot of this will be trolls, and it will be bots, and it will be people who have nameless, faceless profiles who have never, who will never accept the blame for the words and the hatred that they spew. And a lot of social media now, unfortunately, because it isn't policed, no matter, how much the social media channels say, oh, yes, we've got policies in place and blah, blah, blah. But they're not doing enough. So I was really glad to see in that FA statement that they said we are liaising with police, because that's the only way people are going to learn, when they realise there is a consequence for their actions. And it's not just meaningless words online, because if one person says one thing, you think, oh, well, they're an idiot, I'll forget it. If you suddenly got hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands all saying the same thing or variations of, that's going to leave a lasting impression. And at women's games in person, which these trolls will never go to because they clearly hate women and hate women's football, but the words they choose are to hurt, and it's purely based on that. And like I said, critique a player on the things they can control, not the things they can't, because what they look like has no bearing on their skill on a football pitch. Same as in the real world, the colour of your skin or your religion or your ethnicity doesn't hold any bearing on you as a person, your ability to do anything. So these people need to know that these views and opinions are abhorrent and have no place in this game. And it's up to us, especially as an all-white panel, and to keep calling it out when we see it and reporting these accounts, even if you don't feel confident to, say something back to them yourself. Report them, block them, make sure there is then a line of just being more involved in calling it out. Because if people kind of see it and go, oh, I don't quite like that, but keep on scrolling, it's never going to change. So yeah, I think it's up to everyone and the authorities and people who have power and a voice to say, right, enough's enough, and we're going to do something, and we are going to act, because as cliche as it is, actions are much louder than words on this.
I mean, Liberty, I don't know if you've got anything that you wanted to add to this, but I mean, Sporty saying the government needs to tell social media companies to get a grip of stuff like this or block you operating in our country. I mean, there's loads going on. I don't want to go down some sort of political rabbit hole, but loads going on about free speech and all of these sorts of things. And I suppose people are going to grow up and have their own opinions and their own thoughts. But I mean, I was just always brought up that if you've not got anything nice to say, just don't say it. You know, and I feel like this is the problem, is that social media has empowered everybody now to feel like, well, I can just say it. What's anybody going to do about it? What's the worst that can possibly happen to me? And it does just seem to, as Freya says, mainly bots, mainly people that are faceless accounts and that are going to just be able to, like she says, hurt people. How do we stop that? How can will the social media companies ever do anything about it? Because it is absolutely, it's just everywhere. And how do you stop it? It's like trying to stop the tide.
I think back to 2021 and the amount of abuse that, you know, Saka, Rashford, Sancho got after missing their penalties in the Euros for England men. And there was this big conversation about how this was going to change, this was not allowed. And then we get to now and it's not changed. Nothing's actually different at all, because if anything, I don't want to get too political, and I'm going to hold my tongue to some extent, but I do think there is something to say about the amount of children, very young people in this world who believe the likes of Reform and people who believe Nigel Farage and what he has to say, what he and his party stand for. And those are the type of people that will go on social media and will send somebody like Jess Carter, like, you know, any person of color, anyone who is different in their eyes, hate crime, because the person at the top of their political beliefs says it's okay, and it says that that's actually correct. And we are getting to a point in this country specifically where those types of people are getting more and more support, especially from young people, when we've had in the past young people swing left. That's not really the case anymore. And that's sort of all I'll say on the political side. I'm glad that the Lionesses have said we will not take the knee, because they've clearly highlighted that as now somewhat of a performative action. That being said, obviously, if Italy still take the knee, fares off to them, because that is their decision and they shouldn't change that because of something else another team is doing. It feels like, as Freya said, and Barry touched on this as well, these are not football fans. These are not actually people who operate in football and women's football every day. You know, I've never met a person in women's football specifically who hold these beliefs. I can say that quite comfortably and without too much doubt, because I know that the community here and at large are good, accepting people who do not care basically about anything. As long as you are a good person, they really do not care that you are different. Social media is a really good place. I mean, it allows us to do things like this. Other than Sean, I've never met either of you two in person, but I can guarantee that if I did, it would be lovely, because you're lovely people. But it allows us to meet people like this and to have friends. You know, like about 95% of my friends in football have come from online, other than a girl I happen to live with and another girl on my university course. You know, this is a place where you make friends because you don't have people in your like everyday circles who like the same things as you. So you come online and you find like-minded people that want to talk about women's football and want to talk about the nitty-gritty. So I think social media is a good place, and it also helps grow the game and things like that, but it also is a disgusting cesspit, and it is awful, and it is it allows hatred to shine through, whether that's racism, whether that's misogyny. I think, you know, some very big men's football accounts have taken the penalty shootouts from the quarterfinals and decided to be misogynist. One account, which I happily called out, decided that Marjorie's goal penalty was actually the decider, and he tweeted for some 100,000 people to see that was the decider, and to which I quoted with, he knows that that's not the decider, but he's happy to get the engagement because he had the little blue tick, so he'll get a payment from Elon. How lovely for him. And also so he can have other men going, oh, women's football sucks in his comments. You know, this isn't a different thing. This is in every level the same, because I almost guarantee that other players have had misogyny in their DMs. And obviously probably homophobia as well if they are, you know, out in relationships and stuff. That being said, it shouldn't be fucking normal. Excuse my language. You know, this shouldn't be something we accept because people have different opinions, because people shouldn't have opinions that are filled with hatred. Why have you got hatred in your heart at all? And I think social media the companies need to do more. And I think whoever said earlier, apologies, I didn't see who it was, the get a grip will block you from operating our country has got to be the next step, because the only thing these people care about is making money. At the end of the day, the people that own these apps, they want to make money. And if suddenly the whole of the UK doesn't have Twitter, Elon Musk is going to lose a lot of money. And as soon as that's the only thing he cares about, you got to hit the people where it hurts, and where it hurts is their bank accounts. And if a whole country, a continent suddenly doesn't have your social media access because of you couldn't do something about hatred, then that's going to really hurt you, and then maybe you'll do something. But yeah, it makes me angry, and I hope we never have to have this conversation again, because change needs to happen yesterday, basically.
Yeah. No, I can understand it, and I understand the emotion within it, and I mean, it's one of those tricky ones, isn't it? If you were to try and take Twitter away, for example, half the world and half of the country is going to go absolutely loopy about that as well, and have a go at the government. And this is the problem. Everyone's just looking to blame all the time. And I think kind of saying here, social media companies need to take more accountability for procedures to trace it back to the people. And I think actually this is a huge point that Connor's making, and that maybe rather than just having to sign up with your email address, for example, it should be a much, much harder thing to do. The fact that Twitter, for example, just almost welcomes bots, wants them to be there to help with the engagement, is just absolutely crazy. And so, yeah, I think that was a really big thing. But education in society is the key as well. I mean, my nan was the loveliest lady you could ever meet. She'd give you her last farthing, and then, of course, after decimalisation, she'd happily have given you her last pound as well. She had no problem with any of that. But I distinctly remember watching England play. And she was saying, who's that bloke up front, Barry? I said, oh, that's Andy Cole. So why is he playing for England? He shouldn't be playing for England. I'm like, you're having a laughing, you know? You're joking. What do you mean? Well, he doesn't look English. We may not look it, but he is, because he was born here. Like, how can you say that? But this was 30 years ago. And how are we still 30 years down there and not understanding that what makes the person is who they are, just not what they look like? It's absolutely blows my mind that this is the level that we're at, and completely correct, Sporty. Free speech has been able to articulate your view without having to be hateful and abusive. You don't need to be abusive to people, and it gets me down. Like, why can't we just accept each other? I mean, we're all sat here. Freya is a Villa fan, and you know, we all know, as me as a Man United fan, you know, I was really upset with Freya and Aston Villa when we didn't make it through in the Subway Continental Tyre Place Eating Food Cup, all because they couldn't sort out their team sheet correctly. That really wound me up, but I didn't have a go at Freya about it. wasn't her fault. You know, we had a laugh and a joke about it. That's how it works. You should be able to I mean, we've lost the art of disagreeing, and it's just too painful. People just try and be too hurtful all the time. So just stop. Stop, as will.i.am said. What's wrong with the world, mama? Stop. Okay, right. Let's try and lighten the mood just ever so slightly. Obviously, thoughts with Jess, and I hope that she's doing all right. Semi-finals are coming up. Two very, very, very big ones. Italy against England. Liberty. I can tell you that Sean has straight up said Italy are going to win, and he's actually put after that, I will never suggest that England are going to win. So that tells me he thinks England are going to win, but he's just going to say Italy is being stubborn. What do you reckon?
England, but I also think it's going to be. I always say this. I always say it's either going to be 4-3 and it's really dramatic, or it's going to be the most boring 1-0 89th minute winner you've ever seen in all your life. But I really do get the vibes that it's going to be one extreme or the other. It's not going to be, oh, Alessia Russo scored in the 50th minute and then Leah Williamson scored a header in the 70th and that was it. Like, it's genuinely going to be loads of goals, constant goals, or really dramatic ending, but the rest of the game is really boring. But I'm going to say England, but I just don't know what way it's going to happen.
Interesting. TJ thinks it's going to be Spain against England again. Freya, I mean, this is a hard one for you. You know, Italy and England, they're your two big countries when it comes to women's football. But I'm assuming you're going to fall on the side of the Lionesses and that your heart's going to overtake your head or something like that. I don't know. You tell me. What do you reckon?
England should win. Should. However, as we've seen England's performances, no, they need to just absolutely knock it out of the park, England. They need to start strong, they need to get the goals in, and they just need to keep going for it. They need to play as if Italy get 2 goals for every goal they score. Like, that needs to be their mentality, because Italy are going to be so tricky and so frustrating, and we've seen what they can do. And coming up against England, for them to get this far into the tournament, the furthest they've been in a very long time. Is it like 30 years? 20 years? Can't remember. Apologies to every Italian. But yeah, this is a major milestone for them. So for the Italians, I would, if I take my English heart out of it, from an Italian perspective, this would be incredible if they could beat England. If they can do it, if they can get to a final for the first time in so long. For an English perspective, they just need to realise that Italy still are a threat, and they need to go out as if it was the final, and they need to really go for it. So yeah, we can't have any complacency, we can't have any slow starts, can't have anything like that. But yeah, England should win.
And now would be the time to tell you that you did actually suggest it was going to be an Italy v Spain.
Yeah, I did
on that very first day. So it's nice to see that you finally come back over to the light. Well done, Freya. I knew we'd get you back over here eventually. The grass is green. And of course, the second one is, of course, Germany against Spain. Just double checking so I don't say it wrong. He said Italy v Spain. So yeah, Sean is thinking that Spain will beat Germany. Liberty, Freya, one after the other. Go for it. Feel free. Who is getting through that one? Because that is going to be, again, another doozy of a match.
So my original prediction was Germany to win the whole thing. And for the sake of agreeing with my past self but having faith from the beginning, I'm going to say Germany get through to the final.
Which is fair enough. And Freya?
I think purely on what I've seen recently, I think Germany might just get it. Because the tenacity they've shown, I think they've got something special at the minute. Their momentum is incredible. Whereas Spain, yeah, they're getting it. But they haven't quite looked themselves. So yeah, I think regardless of what happens, Wednesday night, it's going to be an insane matchup between Spain and Germany.
Yeah, you're not kidding. Not kidding. I initially went Italy against Germany and Spain against England. That was how mine was supposed to be, with Germany v Spain in the final. Whatever happens, I'm going to have a finalist. So that is good news. But I would like it to be Germany because, again, I went for them to win it. But I do tend to agree with you. Surely England can't have another game like they just had against Sweden. In their head, something's got to click. But Italy have been a very, very resilient side. So I think if England can get a goal and a nice early one, they're very much in with a shout. But if Italy score first, not the easiest team then to go and break down, much like Sweden. So I'm gonna stick with England and Germany as my final, because Sean's not here, and so I don't have to look at his eyes boring through me there for daring to stick with the Lionesses. But I mean, it's going to be a really stupid thing to say, but it could be literally any one of the four, because every single one of them has got a decent claim to it. So again, Freya, you did suggest an Italy v Spain final, so you're very much still on for potentially having both of them. Liberty, you were like me, you said Germany and Spain, so we're only going to have one whatever happens. And Sean said Germany versus France. So he is literally all hopes on Germany. If Germany don't make it through v Spain, then Sean's predictions are not going to be very well taken. So there we go. Well, it's been a pleasure running through it. Would you believe it? There's only been 4 games to talk about. It's our longest show that we have done over the Euros. So there we are. Apologies for that. But there was so much to talk about. It was absolutely crazy. We've got some big semi-finals coming up, and we will be looking forward to talking about them. I think Friday is when I maybe put it down for. So hopefully we'll have a little show then just to talk about what has happened and look forward to the final. Freya, as ever, just quickly shout out where people can see you. And of course, there was somebody who was in here trying to tell people where they could watch these games. But let's be brutally honest, if they're going to watch them, they might as well listen to you. Where could they do that?
Yes, exactly. Come for our live watch-alongs. It's really fun. And you get our really chaotic reactions as well. So on either the whole 115 yards or the Absolute Football podcast, we're streaming live. All the semi-finals, we've done it since the group stages. So both semi-finals and the final will be there live on YouTube. My handle is somewhere. If you can't find them, just follow me through there and you'll find
Just
all the
down
links.
there,
We'll be live and enjoying every minute of it. We've got a lovely little community, much like this podcast as well, where everyone puts their thoughts in the chat. So if you're not going out to a pub, if you're not meeting up with friends and you want someone to watch it with, come and join us.
There we go. And of course, if you're sitting there looking for what I've got to say is just a ridiculous fountain of knowledge, you might want to be following Liberty. So whereabouts can people follow you and not get arrested?
Thank you, Barry. That was very lovely. Everything's just my name, Liberty Simons. I sort of talk about everything and anything at this point, especially when club football comes back. So if that's fun, it's just my name. It's quite simple. But yeah.
Yes, and not get arrested, TJ. You can't just go around following people in real life. There's a term for that. You get just stalking. You get told off for these sorts of things. So you can't just go following human beings around and hope that everything's going to be all right. It's not how it works. Not unless you're a private eye, as you would have over there. And would you believe it? Like I actually can't believe it. But having just said that somebody was in the chat and was properly showing off the game for Germany against Spain, that person has miraculously just dropped themselves back into the chat again to big up the England game, which you can watch. Why not, Adam? Go on, you can have one. Lionesses against Italy versus on Sports Extra and BBC Sounds. There we go. I'm not sure where it is. Is it on the BBC or is it on ITV?
ITV.
That's what I thought.
ITV, so that's why BBC Sounds. Yeah.
Are they
Yeah.
being employed by the BBC to
I
promote?
can't tell who Adam is and what he does, but quite frankly, he's done a great job there of advertising both of them. And do you know what? We've got people from all across the world. So if other people can watch it there and they haven't got access to BBC or ITV, then why the hell not? Thank you very much, everyone. It's been an absolute delight as ever. We've gone through a lot. And it's very, very nearly over. It's interesting just talking to Freya backstage. She said it goes from a game every night to having a couple of days in between, and before you know it, it's gone. And if that's not a good metaphor for life, I don't know what is. So enjoy it while you can and stop being so bloody hateful. See you next time.